Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is cracking open a cold beer after a long day. They're not thinking about why they want it, they just do. That want, that pull toward alcohol, didn't start with a brewery. It didn't start with a vineyard or a distillery or a bar on the corner. It started on a forest floor, millions of years before your species had a name for itself. Here's what nobody tells you about alcohol. You didn't develop a taste for it. You were born with one. In 2014, a biologist named Robert Dudley published a theory that changed how scientists think about human behavior. He called it the drunken monkey hypothesis. His argument was this: when fruit falls from a tree and sits on the ground, the natural sugars inside begin breaking down. Yeast gets in. Fermentation starts. The fruit begins producing small amounts of ethanol. And when ancient primates ate that fruit, the ethanol made them feel good. Not drunk, not falling over, just a little warm. A little better. And they remembered that feeling. They came back for more. Over millions of years, your ancestors didn't just tolerate alcohol, they evolved to seek it out. The attraction was built into them before they understood what they were attracted to. So, by the time modern humans arrived, the desire was already there. Ancient people didn't invent alcohol, they just eventually figured out how to make it on purpose. But when exactly did that happen? In 2018, archaeologists were excavating a cave near Haifa, Israel. The cave had been used by a group called the Natufians about 13,000 years ago. Inside, carved directly into the bedrock, they found stone mortars. When researchers analyzed the residue left behind, they found wheat and barley that had been soaked, germinated, and left to ferment. That's beer, brewed in a cave 13,000 years ago. Now here's the part that stops you cold. The Natufians were not farmers. They had not invented agriculture yet. They were still collecting wild grain by hand, hunting animals, moving from place to place. They did not grow the barley, they found it. And yet, somehow, making beer came before farming, before settlements, before civilization. These people figured out fermentation while they were still living like nomads, which completely destroys the timeline most people learn in school. The standard version goes like this: humans settled down, started farming, built villages, developed culture, and somewhere along the way discovered alcohol. Beer comes after civilization, but the evidence says the opposite. Beer may have come first, and if that's true, it raises a question that researchers have been arguing about for decades. Did humans start farming to make food, or did they start farming to make alcohol? An archaeobotanist named Patrick McGovern, the world's leading expert on ancient fermented drinks, has spent his career arguing for the second option. His reasoning is direct. Bread requires grinding, kneading, and baking. It's a multi-step process that requires effort and skill. Beer is simpler. You soak grain in water, walk away, and fermentation happens on its own. And the desire to drink would have been a far stronger motivator than the desire to eat grain in a slightly different form. If he's right, then alcohol didn't follow civilization. It created the conditions for it. Around the same time the Natufians were brewing in their cave, something enormous was being built about 1,000 kilometers away. At a site in southeastern Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, massive stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, were arranged in careful circles and carved with detailed images of animals. The structure was deliberate, complex, and completely unexplained for years because the people who built it were still hunter-gatherers. No permanent homes, no farms, no pottery. And yet they organized the labor needed to drag 10-ton stones up a hill and carve them with precision. Nobody could figure out why. Then they found large stone vats at the site. When researchers tested the insides, they found chemical traces of fermented grain. These people weren't just building a monument. They were brewing on a scale large enough for gatherings. The current theory is that Göbekli Tepe was a ritual site, a place people traveled to from across the region, came together and drank. The beer wasn't a side detail. It may have been the entire reason the place existed. Think about what that means. The oldest known monumental structure in human history, built before farming, before cities, before writing, may have been built around the act of drinking together. By 7000 BCE, the evidence gets sharper. In a Neolithic village called Jiahu in central China, archaeologists found pottery jars with residue from a fermented drink made from rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries. Chemical analysis confirmed the ingredients and the fermentation process. This is the oldest confirmed recipe for alcohol anywhere in the world. And it wasn't crude. It was a blend. Multiple ingredients, deliberately chosen and combined. Whoever made this wasn't experimenting. They knew exactly what they were doing. From there, the story accelerates. By the time ancient Egypt was building pyramids, alcohol wasn't something people made for celebrations. It was woven into the structure of daily life. Workers who built the pyramids were paid in beer, about 4 to 5 liters a day. That was their actual salary. Not coins, not grain, beer. And it made sense because the water from the Nile was often contaminated. Drinking it straight could kill you. But beer, because of the brewing process, was safer. It kept people alive in ways water couldn't. On top of that, the brewing process added calories and nutrients. For a laborer dragging limestone blocks across the desert in brutal heat, those extra calories weren't a luxury, they were survival. Beer was doing the job of a paycheck, a water filter, a meal, and a medicine, all from the same cup. The Egyptians also believed beer was a gift from the gods. Osiris himself was credited with its creation. It appeared in temple offerings, burial rituals, and medical prescriptions. Physicians mixed herbs into beer and prescribed it for stomach problems, infections, and pain. It was sacred and practical at the same time, holy enough to offer to the dead, useful enough to hand to the sick. But it wasn't just Egypt. Every ancient civilization that left records behind had alcohol at its center. Sumerians brewed beer and wrote poems about it. Greeks built a god around wine and named him Dionysus. Romans carried wine across their empire the way modern armies carry supplies. In China, ritual bronze vessels specifically designed for serving fermented drinks have been found in tombs dating back over 3,000 years. No matter where you look in the ancient world, the drink is already there. And now, here's the part that makes all of this feel personal. You carry this history in your body. The enzyme your liver uses to break down alcohol is called alcohol dehydrogenase. About 10 million years ago, a genetic mutation made that enzyme 40 times more efficient in our primate ancestors. Researchers believe this happened around the same time those ancestors began spending more time on the ground, where fallen fermented fruit was more accessible. Your body didn't just adapt to alcohol, it evolved specifically to handle it better. That mutation is still in you right now. Every time you have a drink, something ancient is happening. Not just culturally, biologically. The glass changed. The ingredients changed. The reasons people give for drinking changed with every era and every culture. But underneath all of it, the same pull exists that existed 10 million years ago on a forest floor. The same chemistry. The same reward signal firing in the same part of the brain. The same feeling that made a small primate reach for a piece of overripe fruit and come back for more the next day. We didn't build civilization and then discover alcohol. There's a very real possibility that the desire to drink together, to gather, to ferment grain and share what came out of it, was one of the forces that pushed humans to settle down, grow crops, build structures, and stay in one place long enough to call it home. The cup got fancier. The impulse never changed.